Hello, Stacy Trasenkos here. I've gotten a lot of feedback about the ethics of the COVID-19 vaccine. Some of you perceive there to be a division among Catholics. The National Catholic Bioethics Center and Charlotte Lozier Institute have issued statements that Catholics may accept the Moderna and Pfizer vaccines, the two in the lead, that even though they used fetal cell line HEK 293 derived from an electively aborted fetus in the 1970s, our acceptance would be what we call a licit remote passive material cooperation, meaning that we may receive these vaccines. It's a licit cooperation in evil. I've disagreed with their statements, and I haven't backed down, but just hear me out. Ultimately, we are not divided at all. We are merely focused on two different aspects of the same problem. I have great respect for the NCBC and the Charlotte Lozier Institute. I trust we're all striving for good and to do the right thing. Where they speak, perhaps as scholars analyzing the past and the present, I'm more appealing to you as a mother who vowed to fight against the use of aborted children in research. I'm focused very much on the future, and I think we are at a unique moment in history where we can use this situation we find ourselves in now to make things better going forward. To explain this, though, I need to go back to the basics. In 2003, Mrs. Deborah Vintage wrote to the Vatican. She is the executive director and founder of Children of God for Life. And she asked the Vatican, she's a mother as well, she asked the Vatican to give us clear guidance on childhood vaccines because many of them are made using the aborted fetal cell lines. We're talking about cooperation in evil. What does licit cooperation in evil mean? Let's break it down. Cooperation can be divided into two categories, formal and material. Formal cooperation is intentional. Material cooperation is unintentional. And this discussion is over here in the side document. Formal cooperation is carried out when the moral agent cooperates with the immoral act of another person, sharing in the intent. Material cooperation is when the immoral action, the intent is not shared. Further, material cooperation can be divided into immediate and mediate. Immediate is direct, nothing in the middle. Mediate, something in the middle. Mediate is indirect, something in the middle. Immediate is direct, mediate is indirect. We don't always use those words that way, so it can be confusing. Nothing in the middle, something in the middle. Further, we can break all of these down into other distinctions, proximate and remote. So this refers to distance, be it in terms of temporal space or material connection, between the act of cooperation and the sinful act it committed. So you can envision that as we start to talk about vaccines and their production and distribution and use, we're moving away from that original evil act. So we do make those distinctions. Formal cooperation, and I'm reading here, formal cooperation is always morally illicit because it represents a form of direct and intentional participation in the sinful act of another. Material cooperation can sometimes be illicit, but when immediate material cooperation concerns grave attacks on human life, it is always considered illicit. A further distinction can be made up here between active and passive. So what these terms mean is if there is a cooperation in evil that is passive, it's negative cooperation. Active would be positive cooperation. And you see these distinctions here. When the latter refers to the omission of an act of denunciation of a sinful act, that is passive. Active would be participating in. The former referring to the performance of an act of cooperation. So that's active. Omission is passive. So all of these can be distinguished both ways. So we have a lot of distinctions being made here. In the specific case under examination, meaning vaccines, there are 3 categories of people, and I've started to post them over here, who are involved in the cooperation of evil. Those who participate in the production, research and development and production of the vaccines. So let's talk about what that means. In research and development, decisions are made, and research and development always comes before a product launching out into the market. Decisions are made about how something is going to be done. They might, in this case, some of these vaccines have used the HEK 293 cell lines in the research and development to learn more about the genetics of the vaccine and how to make the mRNA that goes into the vaccine, or they've used the HEK 293 in the testing. Some of the people talking about the COVID-19 vaccines are separating research and development from manufacturing and marketing. You really can't say that if the HEK 293 is used in research and development, that's good because it's not used in the production, and therefore it's okay. There's no evil connected to this vaccine at all. You really can't say that because the research and development is ongoing. It underlies everything that goes to market. And as we all know, when something goes to market, there's always the 2.0, the iteration. So research and development are always going on behind the scenes in the research labs. They don't shut down when something goes to market. So they're always supporting product development. It's a cycle. It's the scientific method. So if an intentional decision is made to use a fetal cell line derived from abortion, that would be formal cooperation. When you get, it's actually less than when you get to the manufacturing and the marketing, because the people who are producing the vaccine they weren't there to make the choice to use the fetal cell lines or not. So I would argue they have maybe even less of responsibility, but still a strong, grave responsibility. And this is consistent with what the Vatican instructions say. But either way, they're both illicit. To make the choice to use the fetal cell lines and to participate in the production, manufacturing, and marketing are both illicit. One is formal cooperation, one is proximate, immediate material cooperation. And that is all described in this document. But as it regards those who need to use vaccines for reasons of health, us, it has to be emphasized that apart from every form of formal cooperation in general, doctors and parents who resort to the use of these vaccines for their children, in spite of their origins, carry out a very remote mediate material cooperation, which is what the NCBC and Charlotte Lozier Institute are saying. And they're right. The cooperation there is less intense than the health authorities, the national health systems, and the industries. We have less of a part in this because we didn't make any of those choices. We're just kind of here dealing with what to do with those choices. But in this situation, this is where I want to focus on what's not being discussed enough, in my opinion. The aspect of passive cooperation is that which stands out most. And this is going back to 2005 with childhood vaccines too. And this is where parents come into the picture very strongly, because if you've had a baby vaccinated in the last 15 years or 30 years, you know what I'm talking about. It is up to the faithful and citizens of upright conscience to oppose, even by making an objection of conscience, the ever more widespread attacks against life and the culture of death which underlies them. From this point of view, the use of vaccines whose production is connected with procured abortion. No, it's not saying whether it's research, development, testing, production, marketing, connected at all with procured abortion, constitutes at least immediate remote passive material cooperation to the abortion and an immediate passive material cooperation with regard to their marketing. Furthermore, and the key part I have highlighted, on a cultural level, the use of such vaccines contributes in the creation of a generalized social consensus to the operation of the pharmaceutical industries. If we don't speak up and protest this practice, if we don't protest the research and development, the testing, the production, the marketing, all of it, then we are contributing to the creation of a generalized social consensus to the use of aborted children in the production of medicines. So, therefore, reading on, doctors and fathers of families have a duty to take recourse to alternative vaccines, and mothers, putting pressure on the political authorities and health systems so that other vaccines without moral problems become available. And that is what we're talking about now with COVID-19. We do not need to just be saying, well, if the Moderna and the Pfizer vaccine are taken to market, even though in their research and development and or testing phases, they relied on HEK 293 cells, even if they come to market, we can just use them. Because what's happened here is in the past, which is why I think these people are focusing more on the past. In the past, with childhood vaccines, which this document from the Vatican was written for, we were painted into a corner, a remote mediate material cooperation in evil corner. And we aren't in that corner right now. And so the people who are saying, well, if the Moderna and Pfizer vaccines go to market, it's okay if you use them because the Vatican said that it would be a licit cooperation in evil to use them. It's like they're asking Catholics to go stand in the corner and wait for somebody to show up with the paintbrush. We aren't painted into that corner yet. And all I'm saying is, don't go stand in the corner and wait to be painted into it. Get out there right now and do what this document is saying and oppose by all means the vaccines which do not yet have morally acceptable alternatives. Except now, we're not even to that point. We can protest the production of these vaccines before they ever go to market. And let me tell you something. If you ask them to do better while they're still in the R&D and early production phases, it's easier for them to change to ethical sources now than it would be down the road. So I am saying, don't go stand in the corner and wait for somebody to show up with a paintbrush. Get out there and make your voices known. And that's why it made me a little bit crazy to hear people saying, oh yeah, as if the vaccines were already here. Oh yeah, it's okay if you need to use them. It might be okay, but it's only going to be okay if the only choice we have, and it says this in this document, it's only okay if that's the only choice we have. And it's only okay, we have a grave responsibility. It's only okay if we also, this is the other part that's not getting talked about, if we also speak up and say, do better to the pharmaceutical industry. So before we get to that point where we have to accept these vaccines because there's no other alternative, I'm asking us to speak up now. How you say, that's next. Here's how to do something. Some of you have been asking that as well. The way to do something is go to the Moderna website, click on Contact Us, click on media@modernatx.com or any of these others, but I recommend the media one, or the info, and just tell them. Say, hey, look, we don't like that you use the fetal cell lines and that you partnered with the government, the NIH, the NIAID, which is a branch of the NIH, the National Institute for Health. We don't like that you partnered with them and based your production on the use of the fetal cell lines, but do better. Stop doing that. Commit to not doing that in the future, and we're good. Likewise, go to Pfizer's website. They also have a Connect with Us. You can connect with them on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, or Instagram, or you can email them on this website here. Go there and say the same thing. Now, Pfizer only used the aborted fetal cell line HEK293 in testing, and they're going to keep using it in testing. They don't stop doing that when something goes to market, as people have been saying. Just say, hey, look, find another way to do your test, and we're good. Also, contact your representative. You can go to this page. I'll put these links down. Representatives, find your representative, type in your zip code, email that person. Also, email your senator. Choose a state, find your senator, email that senator. And there you go. That's what you need to do. And if you hear people saying, go stand in the corner and wait to be painted, speak up and say, no, let's do something now while we can, because I don't want to find myself a year from now saying, oh, well, I don't have any alternatives. I guess I'll have to use this vaccine. It's not going to feel good if we get to that point and we didn't speak up when we could. Thank you.